Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Anne and today I'm doing the mid-year book freakout tag. As was the case with my June wrap-up, I already filmed this video once, but it didn't have any sound, so I'm now filming it for the second time a week later, so hopefully it'll still be fun. I'm going to try my best. This tag was originally created a couple of years ago, I think maybe even in 2014 or something like that, by Ellie and one other person whose name I'm now forgetting. I'll link their channels down below. Most people on BookTube will be familiar with this tag because around this time of the year everyone is doing it, because it's such a fun way to kind of go over the things you've read so far this year and just talk about the books that were most surprising, most disappointing, and also look forward to the rest of the year and what you want to read then. I always look forward to doing this tag, so I'm really excited to do it, even though I already did it. I'm just going to have fun filming this again. And yeah, let's just get into it. In the first half of the year, from January until the end of June, I read 41 books, which is amazing for me. I set my goal for this year at 50 for the end of the year, so I'm well on my way to reaching that. I might even reach it in July. Maybe that's a bit of a stretch. August, definitely. I've just been having a great time reading this year, and that's reflected in the amount of books I read as well. Most of them are by women. The vast majority of them are by women. I don't know the statistics, but I think it's about 80% to 20%, maybe even higher than that. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it's something like that. That's not something I specifically strive for, but I found out that I definitely gravitate to books written by women more than I do to books written by men. That's just the way it is. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get into the questions. The first question is, what is the best book that you've read so far this year? And for me, that definitely is Concrete Rose by Angie. I read this in January, so it was one of the first books I read this year, and it still holds up as my favorite. This is the sequel, or actually a prequel to The Hate U Give by Angie. It tells the story of Maverick Carter, who is the father of Star Carter, who is the main character of The Hate U Give. But this book tells his story when he is 17, when he is Star's age in The Hate U Give. It's just a really great story. I loved Maverick as a character. I loved him in The Hate U Give already, but this book made me love him even more. He has some really tough things to deal with. His father is in prison, and at the start of the book he finds out that he is a father as well, and he has to take care of his baby, and he finds that very difficult, but the way he rises up to doing that is really beautiful, I think. There's also some gang related and drug related things in here, because Maverick lives in a rough neighborhood. His father was part of a gang, and kind of by default he then becomes part of this gang as well, also because he needs the protection and he really doesn't want to be part of it, but he doesn't really see a way out. So it really dives into that and what it's like to live that life and how difficult it is for a boy or a man in his position to really make it out okay. And it's about how society treats black men kind of as monsters, really. How they are not expected to feel things, how they're not expected to cry. And it's a very beautiful exploration of what it's like to be a black man living in the USA, and probably in a lot of other places as well. I just thought it was really good. It was very well written, and I really can't wait to see what else Angie comes out with. The second question is, what is the best sequel you read this year so far? And that is a book that I read last month, and it is Mr. Impossible by Maggie Stiefvater. This is the second book in the Dreamer trilogy, the first book being Call Down the Hawk, and this trilogy is kind of a sequel series to The Raven Cycle. Because of that, I don't really want to go into what it's about too much, because I don't want to spoil anything, but it's about dreams and dreamers. It's about Ronan, who was one of the main characters of The Raven Cycle as well, and about his two brothers and some other characters. And it's really, really good, and I really like this one over Call Down the Hawk, because I felt like in this book the story really found its stride, and I'm really looking forward to the last book. Another sequel I just kind of had to mention in here, and I forgot to mention it the first time I filmed this video, is Heartstopper Volume 4. This is the fourth volume of the Heartstopper graphic novel series, and it's really good. It's my favorite so far. It really deals with mental health and mental illnesses in a really beautiful way, and I just wanted to quickly give it a shout out. Question number 3 is, what's a new release you really want to read but haven't read yet? And I have two answers to this question. The first is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston, and the second is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I think both of these books came out last month, and I really want to read both of them. This one is on my July TBR, so I will hopefully get to it this month. I read Red, White and Royal Blue, which is this author's first book, or at least the book she wrote before this, and I really loved it. I read that earlier this year. And this one is about two women falling in love with one another when they meet on a New York subway, which sounds great. I'm looking forward to it. I love her writing style. And the other one, Malibu Rising, is by the author of Daisy Jones and the Six, and The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and I've seen a lot of people love this. And I really enjoyed those 2 books, so I'm looking forward to reading this as well. I think it takes place over only one day, which is something I always love if a book only covers a short period of time with lots of things happening. So I'm really looking forward to both of these. Question number 4 is, what is your most anticipated release for the rest of the year? And for me, that's very clearly Aristotle and Dante Dive into the Waters of the World by Benjamin Alira Sanz. This is the sequel to Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe, both very long titles. Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe is one of my favorite books of all time. It came out in 2012, I think, so it's been a very long time. The sequel was announced a couple of years ago, but up until earlier this year we didn't have a release date, so I didn't know this was coming out at the start of the year, but I think it's coming out in October and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm also a bit scared that maybe it will be a bit of a disappointment, because Aristotle and Dante, the first book, really felt like a standalone, like it was meant to be one story. But nevertheless, I really can't wait to read more about these characters. Question number 5 is, what is the biggest disappointment of the year so far? And I'm not interpreting this as what is the worst book you've read so far this year, but really as what book was most disappointing to you. And I'm really sorry about this, Connor, but I'm going to have to say Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. I wanted to read this because Connor, I'll leave his channel down below, absolutely loved this and raved about it, I think at the end of 2020. And I've heard a lot of people really love this book. But for me, unfortunately, it wasn't great. It was just a personal thing. I didn't really mesh with the writing style. I didn't really mesh with the characters. So in the end, I just really didn't enjoy this book very much. And I really expected this to be a 5-star read, to be honest. I expected to be blown away by it. So because of that, it was my biggest disappointment. I do really want to read other books by James Baldwin because I'm still very interested in him as a writer and in him as a thinker, but this one wasn't for me, even though I do recognize that this was a very important book for gay literature. Question number 6 is, what is the biggest surprise so far this year? And that for me has to be Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I picked this up at my local bookstore because it had a 50% off sticker on it, and I figured I'd probably want to read this at some point, but I wasn't planning on reading it soon because it wasn't really that hyped for it. But then, I think in May, it was probably May, for the Buzzword Reading Challenge, I had to read a book with the word house in the title, and this was the only book on my TBR, on my physical TBR, with that word in the title. So I figured I'd just give it a go, and then I ended up absolutely loving it. I gave it 5 stars, it was great. I was swept up in the story, I loved the characters, I loved the mystery. It was just a really good story, and it was so surprising to me because for some reason I didn't really think I was going to love this. I picked it up because I love Leigh Bardugo, I love her writing, but I'd seen some mixed reviews on this. Some people absolutely love it, but a lot of people also don't like it. So I think I was kind of influenced by that. But this is a story set at Yale University, and it's about the secret societies that exist within this university. And in particular, it's about a girl called Alex Stern, and it's about ghosts, it's about murder, it's about bad things going down. I love the characters, I love the mystery, I loved everything about it. The next question is, what's your favorite new author? And that can both be a debut author or an author that's new to you. And I have 2 answers to this question. The first one is Casey McQuiston. I read Red, White and Royal Blue earlier this year, like I said, and I absolutely loved her writing. It was so funny and wonderful, and I really can't wait to read this. And the other is Anna Marie McLemore. I didn't write this book. I read When the Moon Was Ours last month, I think, maybe the month before that. I really don't remember very well. But I've been wanting to read one of their books for a very long time now, and now I finally did it. Anna Marie McLemore writes YA magical realism books, and I really want to read more of their work now that I really like this one. Question number 8 is, what is your newest fictional crush? And I don't really get fictional crushes, but if I had to choose, I'd have to say probably Darlington from Ninth House or Henry from Red, White and Royal Blue. But like I said, I don't really get fictional crushes, so that would be more like favorite characters. And I think the next question is, yes, newest favorite character. And so I'd have to say those 2, and then Maverick Carter from Concrete Rose, I think, as well as Cassidy Blake from City of Ghosts, which is a middle grade novel by V.E. Schwab that I listened to on audio earlier this year and absolutely adored. I really want to read the rest of that series as well, and I really liked Cassidy Blake as a fun middle grade main character. Question number 10 is a book that made you cry, and again I have 2 answers for this. The first one is Under Rose Tainted Skies by Louise Gordon. doornail. This is a novel about a teenage girl who struggles with OCD, agoraphobia and anxiety, and I struggle with 2 of those as well. So this really hit close to home. I didn't actually cry while reading this book, but because I don't really cry while reading. I think that happened maybe once, and it didn't happen this year, but yeah, this hit close to home. I had to put the book away a couple of times because it got a bit too intense for me. So I think this one would be very close to crying. And then the other option, again, I didn't actually cry, but I was very close, was The Galaxy and the Ground Within by Becky Chambers. This is the 4th and final book in the Wayfarer series, which is my favorite series of all time. So when this came to an end, I got kind of choked up because I knew this was the last book, and also the ending was very wonderful and it was just emotional and I loved it. Question number 11 is a book that made you happy, and again I have 2 answers for this. The first one is Red, White and Royal Blue. I've talked about it before in this video. It was really wonderful. It made me laugh very hard, which doesn't happen very often while reading, but I really loved that one. It was very hopeful as well, and I really loved the characters, so it was great. And the other book for this is Wondersmith by Jessica Townsend. This is the 2nd book in the Nevermore series, which follows Morrigan Crow, who lives a hard life until she meets Jupiter North and is swept away to a magical city called Nevermore. Like I said, this is the 2nd book in the series. This was the first book that I read in 2021. I've been looking forward to reading it for a very long time, and it was just really wonderful to be back in this magical place and follow Morrigan on her adventures. I've also got a copy of the 3rd book now, which you might know if you've seen my recent book haul. I'll leave the link up above and down below, and I'm really excited to read that one as well, hopefully later this year. Question number 12 is, what is the most beautiful book that you've bought or received this year? And there is no question about this. It is very obviously The Galaxy and the Ground Within by Becky Chambers. I already showed it to you before, but now let's just take a proper look at it, because this is absolutely beautiful. It is a hardcover copy, it is signed, which I love, but mostly the cover is just so beautiful. I love this purple and the blue. I love the night sky. I love these stained edges, sprayed edges. I'm not really sure what that's called. It's just beautiful, and I display it very proudly up there on my shelves usually. This series in general just has the most beautiful covers, and they're definitely the most beautiful books that I own. And then the final question is, what are some books that you need to read by the end of the year? As you might know, I always devise a list of 10 books that I have to read by the end of a year. I do that every year, and of the 2021 list, I've now read 5 books, so I've got 5 more books to go. The books on this list are usually books that have been on my TBR for a very long time, but that I just don't pick up because I'm intimidated by them or I forget about them for some reason. And by putting them on this list, I'm kind of forcing myself to read them. These are always books that I really do want to read, but just don't, for whatever reason. The first book on this list is actually a book that hasn't been on there for very long. This is one of the last books that I bought in 2020, but I do think that this is a book that I would forget about and that I would not read, or that I would just put off reading even though I really want to, and it is Troy by Stephen Fry. This is the 3rd book in his series of retelling or telling Greek mythology. The first one was Mythos and the second one was Heroes. Oops, my battery is flashing at me. So let's make this very quick. I'm just not going to go into them. I want to read Troy by Stephen Fry, Asymmetry by Lisa Halliday, The Red Notebook by Paul Auster, which is a collection of essays, The Secret History by Donna Tartt, which is intimidating, but I really want to read. And then the last one is The Name of the Rose, which is even more intimidating because it's over 700 pages. And it's written by Umberto Eco. So, those were the books on this list. That just went very quickly, but I need to wrap this up because of my battery. I'm really loving my reading year so far. Please in a comment down below let me know if you've read any of these books, if you've loved them. What was your favorite book you've read so far this year? Or if you can't choose one, just pick 3 or 2 or however many you want. Please like this video if you liked it and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of me in the future. And have a wonderful day. Bye!